What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Chris Evans here with Zero Meter Chasers live on this July 9th here at 11 p.m. a.m. Eastern Standard Time. To cover our possible severe weather that is possible tonight, we're going to cover some timing and potential impacts here in Kentucky and the Ohio Valley. So make sure, before I get started here, just want to make sure that the audio is working correctly. So you guys can put either a 1 in the chat or just say audio is working good, just so I know that you guys can hear me. What you're looking at right here is the Storm Prediction Center's severe outlook for today. And you can see we do have a level 2 out of 5 risk, a slight risk of severe weather, anywhere from St. Louis to Columbia to Cape Girardeau to Evansville. So we covered this here yesterday. We're going to cover some more model data here in a second once we get everybody kind of in here. But that slight risk is still highlighting the I-64 corridor. And you will see as we zoom into Kentucky a little bit here, you'll see that slight risk kind of gets cut off just to the west of I-65. Thank you guys for the comments. I appreciate it. But you'll see that slight risk is cut off just to the west of I-65. So if you're along the I-65 corridor, let's say in Louisville, E-Town, Bowling Green, you are currently in that marginal risk level 1 out of 5 for any severe storms this afternoon. When we look at the tornado risk for today, there is a very, very low-end tornado risk for today. That tornado risk, I think, will maximize it. I highlighted this exact area yesterday, but I really think that the highest tornado risk for the setup today is going to be along the I-64 corridor here in Illinois and Indiana. I do think we could get a brief, very brief tornado, especially here in Western Kentucky. We'll kind of see how the data is targeting Western Kentucky a little bit more with more severe storms compared to Central Kentucky. So we'll kind of look at that here in a second. But I do think that we do have a low-end isolated tornado risk, especially here along I-64 from Mount Vernon to Evansville to Vincennes, Indiana. When we look at the wind risk, this is by far our biggest risk for today. There is a 15% wind risk, again, including places like Columbia, St. Louis, Mount Vernon, and Effingham. And that 15% risk does include portions of Western Kentucky. Places like Paducah, Evansville, and Madisonville look most at risk for the damaging wind threat this afternoon. Again, we're going to look at some model data here in a little bit and kind of cover some potential timing and impacts and kind of what I'm seeing on the model data. But this is where the SPC is highlighting for the wind risk. And then you'll see we do have a 5% hail risk, but there is not much of a hail risk today. So I'm going to show this SPC outlook one more time. Again, this is a level 2 out of 5 slight risk, especially for those in Western Kentucky and those along I-64. I do think that you're probably at a greater risk of severe storms today as we get going today. But what I wanted to do now was kind of look at some model data with you guys and kind of see what to expect as we get into our Thursday. So I just want to stop here for a second, give anybody any options to put any questions in the chat. Pretty self-explanatory. I'll tell you, today is going to be a very nice day for many of us. We do have some of those isolated pop-up storms here along I-64 just east of Louisville, but many in Kentucky are dry. And if we move forward the HRRR here, you'll see all the way to 4 o'clock in the afternoon today, we're going to remain dry. We're not going to have much storm activity. Those pop-up storms are really going to be more centered in West Virginia and far eastern Kentucky. But what we have to watch now, if I zoom out a little bit, is this MCS or MCV complex that is going to be tracking out of Illinois. So you can see it a little bit here at 4 o'clock, but really as we advance it, you can see the spin here on the HRRR. This is at 6 o'clock this afternoon, and you can see still in Kentucky, we have a couple of isolated pop-up storms here in far eastern Kentucky, but many here in Kentucky will stay dry during the day today. That's the good news with the repeated rounds and storms that we've had during the day the last couple of days. The good news with this setup is it looks to be more of an evening and overnight setup. The timing has actually came a little bit slower, and we'll look at that here on the model data, but all the way up until 6 o'clock, it looks very dry, especially here in central and even Western Kentucky. Now in Western Kentucky at 6 o'clock, we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on any of these thunderstorms here in Missouri and Illinois that are going to be tracking southeast through the afternoon. If we move this fast forward to about 8 o'clock here, You can see some of these thunderstorms. It's interesting because model data has shown this here for about 2 days now. It's showing about 2 different waves along this MCV. So here's your first wave that will track near the I-64 corridor and near Louisville. And then model data has been showing another wave, and this looks to be a little bit broken here, that may track into Western Kentucky. So it does look like we might have 2 waves. I'll tell you, I think this second wave here that tracks into Western Kentucky does look like the more promising of the 2 waves, in my opinion, for severe weather. And I do think that we'll have a severe weather threat even when the sun goes down tonight, just because we're getting a strengthening wind field that we're going to be looking at here in a second. But again, this is looking at 8 o'clock here in the afternoon on your Thursday, and you can see we're going to have 2 complexes of storms that are going to be tracking towards Kentucky. Still questions the MCV, or the area of kind of mini low pressure, is all the way up here. So this is kind of on the tail end of that. So there's a question on whether these are going to be more isolated cells or how quickly they're going to congeal into a line. And that's something that's just a nowcasting thing. We'll have to see. Data suggests this becoming an MCS, or an organized line of storms, more than it supports supercells. Just because our wind shear is not that strong today, it'll kind of support multi-cell storms versus supercells, which is why our tornado risk is not that high today. But we do have an elevated damaging wind threat. And again, you can see that here on the HRRR around 10 o'clock today. You can see a line of showers and storms here that are moving into Kentucky, especially in Western Kentucky. I have seen data. I'm going to draw one more circle here for you guys. Try not to mess this up. I've seen data really highlight this area, and I do think the HRRR is highlighting this area too. On the latest run, but it's not just the HRRR that's been highlighting this area. A lot of the data I've seen from a window from 9 to 11 p.m. has been highlighting an area from Paducah to Madisonville to Hopkinsville and Evansville. And I'll tell you that this right here is a nasty, damaging wind threat. This would probably have 65 to 70 mile per hour winds with it. And with the saturated ground that we already have, as much rain that we've already had, it does not take much wind to kind of bring down some trees as we get into our evening here. But again, you can see kind of that Boeing segment that the HRRR is hinting at here at 11 o'clock. And then you'll see again our northern wave here up here by I-64 is just not as strong. So if I zoom out a little bit, that circled area is where a lot of the model data, not just the HRRR, but a lot of the model data has been hinting at the higher risk for some damaging wind gusts. And we'll just have to kind of see how that tracks. But it's not just the HRRR, but with the motion of this, I do think that this could push a little bit further here to the I-65 corridor. But right now, I do think, just looking at model data and everything, I do think that here, Western Kentucky, especially in this red circle here, anywhere from Paducah to Evansville to Madisonville, I think is probably most at risk for some damaging winds and storms as we get late into our Thursday. Now, the good thing is I was really worried about the isolated flash flooding yesterday. I was worried about all these repeated rounds of storms, and I'm still very worried about it, especially here in Western Kentucky. But looking at some of the data, and where the rainfall has already occurred, we've had a lot of rain here along the I-65 corridor. So if we were to get this round right here, and you can see this heavy rain, and if I fast forward it a little bit, that first wave will kind of die off as we get into the overnight. But wherever it dies off, right behind it, we have something that's called cold pooling, which is just moderate or heavy rain right behind the MCS. And this will lead to some flash flooding somewhere in Kentucky overnight on Thursday. I am worried about the flash flooding threat overnight on Thursday, especially right behind this MCS. So as we get into midnight in the overnight hours on Thursday into early on your Friday morning, we'll have widespread showers and storms wherever that MCS complex kind of sets up. And if I move this through, you can see this is all the way through 9 a.m. on Friday, and just repeated rounds of showers and storms here, especially here in Western Kentucky, but even here in Central Kentucky, we're getting a lot of just showers and storms overnight. No severe risk as we get into our overnight, but I'm more worried about the flash flooding risk. So we'll have to kind of see where that MCS tracks as we get into our evening today. That kind of lays the groundwork here. So if I backed it up here, the radar or the future radar, and this at 10 o'clock on Thursday, again, here's that complex of storms near Evansville. And if I fast forward to about 2 a.m., that complex will die off here into central Kentucky, and it'll leave an area of very heavy rainfall behind it. Into our overnight Thursday into early Friday morning. And that rainfall looks to go all the way through our Friday morning. Now, we talked yesterday, we might have another wave of storms as we get into our Friday. I don't want to cover this too much today because I'm more worried about Thursday's severe risk than I am anything, but I will cover it briefly here. Again, Thursday's risk is really important because look at all that rain that's around Friday morning. The question on Friday becomes, will we be able to destabilize or build in CAPE or instability with all this rain that's in Kentucky? Now, the HRRR does move that rain out here in the early afternoon, and you will see fires up more storms here, especially out here in Western Kentucky, about 8 p.m. on Friday. And those showers and storms kind of advance down to the Tennessee Valley. And you will see we have more widespread showers, rain and showers here along the I-65 corridor too. So this is not going to be our only round of storms. Again, as we get into Saturday morning, another round of storms. So this is that repeated rounds of showers and storms that we've been talking about. But again, I'll tell you, Thursday's risk is so important to Fridays and Saturdays. We can't get into the weeds on Friday and Saturday until we figure out what happens today. Because, again, some of the model data is still not in agreement on where the heaviest damaging wind threat will set up. So that's looking at the HRRR. What I wanted to do now is look at one more piece of model data here for you guys. And this is another CAM that we look at. And here's your timestamp again here at the top left. And this is at Thursday at 3 p.m. here. And you'll see the FV3, which is another CAM that we look at, it doesn't really convect as much as the HRRR does, which is interesting because the FV3 kind of likes to over-convect sometimes. But nevertheless, you'll see if we do have any showers or storms, and I do think that this is under convected a little bit, you'll see some of that. I showed this model for a reason. You'll see it in a second. But the greatest storm threat, I think, today is going to be along and west of I-65. The timing looks to be 7 p.m. to midnight. I think that's our timing for severe weather. It's going to happen in West Kentucky first. So if you're in that corridor from Paducah to Evansville to Madisonville, I'm thinking around 7 to 9 p.m. Looks like when the storms are going to arrive. And then along the I-65 corridor, I think we'll be closer to midnight. So I think it'll be closer to 10 p.m. to midnight. But looking at the FV3 here, you'll see it kind of holds back this complex of storms until late Thursday, until midnight. So if we advance it forward, you'll see it kind of has the same general area. If we show the train tracks here, it's kind of tracking in this general area for your highest rain and storm threat. But again, looking at the timestamp, it's 4 a.m. and the FV3 doesn't even have rain in Kentucky yet. So it's interesting to see some of the timing differences on some of the model data. I do think that this could be an overnight issue tonight, which could kill our severe risk, but really elevate the flash flooding risk. Because when you get those elevated storms in the overnight period, it can be repeated rounds of storms moving in with high rainfall rates. So I am worried about that a little bit. But again, moving through here, looking at the FV3, this is at 4 a.m. on Friday, and you'll see kind of where the FV3 is kind of looking at the same kind of placement as the HRRR, just different timing. But anywhere along and west of I-65, this is at 9 a.m. here on Friday. And then if we move forward, you'll see, again, that's not our only wave of storms. We're going to have multiple waves of storms as we move into the weekend. So I hope I didn't confuse anybody here. I'm going to show this SPC outlook one more time. Did not mean to draw there. Here is that SPC outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. I'm going to zoom into Kentucky a little bit here. You will see that slight risk is along I-64 and really just west of I-65. Now, I don't want you to get caught up in placements like if you're over here in Greene County or if you're over here in Taylor County, in Campbellsville, or even in E-Town right now. You know, we're really close to the slight risk, but we're not included. It would not surprise me to see this slight risk get moved a little bit farther east. Just based on some of the model data that I've seen, it's just some of the discrepancies on the model data is the reason why the slight risk is here. But I do think that we have a damaging wind threat all the way to the I-65, maybe even a little bit further east. So if you're anywhere in this green area tonight, I would just make sure you're weather aware for the potential for some isolated severe weather. Again, here's that 2% tornado risk. Very, very low end isolated tornado risk. I think it'll be more of a quick spin up tornado if we were to see a tornado today, and it would be more along the I-64 corridor. Here's that 15% wind risk. Again, this is our biggest risk for today, is that damaging wind threat as we get into our evening hours. And then here is our hail risk. Again, not much of a hail risk with this setup at all. So one thing I did want to show here, I wanted to go to the HRRR and kind of look at the amount of rainfall that could fall tonight from these storms. So as we know, we already have a very saturated ground, so it is not going to take much here to cause some issues. But now, if we remember yesterday, the HRRR was showing values around 2 to 6 inches. Now, if I zoom in over here to Western Kentucky, remember that kind of area here just west of I-65 from Paducah to Evansville to Madisonville, where we could see the heaviest rainfall amounts. And the good news is the latest HRRR is down on the amounts a little bit. So this is only through Friday at 8 a.m. So this is only evening and overnight tonight, but you can see widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain. And unfortunately, I'm a little concerned that this is underplayed a little bit, especially here near Paducah and Madisonville. I do think there is an opportunity to see 3 inches plus of rain tonight. So I am worried about the flash flooding threat here in far western Kentucky, basically from I-69 in portions further west. And then we'll just have to kind of see where that second round tracks in. But all these repeated rounds of storms, are going to take a toll. This is just through 8 a.m. on Saturday. The HRRR showing 6 inches of rain here in Cape Girardeau and pockets of 3 to 4 inches of rain in far western Kentucky. So I do think out of all the threats, out of everything that I've talked about today, the flash flooding risk is the biggest risk. That's number one. Number two is going to be the damaging wind threat as we get into the evening and overnight hours. Remember, with how saturated of a ground that we have, it's not going to take much to bring down some trees. So I know I had a couple of comments in here. I want to look through the comments. So I'm going to pop those up on the stream for a second. So it's a good time, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, to put it in the chat so I can take a look at it here. Bridget asked about Campbellsville, Kentucky. I think the timing for Campbellsville appears to be about 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. for the severe or flooding risk, or just thunderstorm risk in general. I am worried about some flooding risk in Campbellsville, especially overnight. If we look here, you'll see the heaviest of the rainfall on the HRRR is just to the west of you. But in a setup like this, if model data is showing heavy rainfall in Bowling Green, you usually need a buffer of about 2 counties. So really, if it's showing heavy rain in Bowling Green, it could be heavy rain in Campbellsville in a setup like this. So I would still be weather aware in Campbellsville tonight, although I don't think the severe risk is as high in Campbellsville as it is in far western Kentucky. So Mike said already at 1.9 inches in central Missouri. Yeah, and that's where, again, the model data, if I back that up, so just looking through right here, I guarantee you model data, see, there's already an inch of rain here in central Missouri, and model data was not showing that at all. Right? Like, I think that's a pocket of maybe a half an inch to near an inch just west of Columbia. So to know that model data is already underplaying some of the rain values that's ongoing in Missouri right now, that leads to me that we might see a more elevated flash flooding risk as we get into tonight. Not something that we want to hear. Again, I don't want to deal with this. I hate the rain. I hate repeated rounds of rain, and I hate the heat. I'm a big snow guy. Bots, man, I'm ready for the snow, ready for winter. But the good news is when we get through this weekend, it does look like we're going to relax a little bit maybe on the heat and on some of the rain chances. So I'm very excited, ready for that. what I'm going to do now is show you guys some products from the National Weather Service in Louisville. And the first thing that they have mentioned is they're worried about the flooding risk. This is the chance for 2 inches or more of rain by Saturday night. And you can see if you're in E-Town, Campbellsville, Bowling Green, or Somerset, you have an over a 50% chance of rain, or a 50% chance to see over 2 inches of rain by Saturday night. And with the amount of moisture that we already have on the ground, this is going to be enough to cause some issues here in Kentucky. And I did see this comment from Mike. PWATS with this line look to hover around 2 inches. So the PWATS, what the PWATS is, for people that don't understand, is it's just the amount of moisture that the atmosphere can hold. So when it rains and it's a very heavy thunderstorm, when we have PWATS around 2 inches, that means a storm, a mature thunderstorm, can drop 2 inches of rain in about 1 hour. And to have that tonight, again, the good news is we've had slow moving thunderstorms the last couple of days. These thunderstorms are going to be a lot quicker moving. So there'll be 50 to 60 miles an hour, but you could still get repeated rounds of storms with storms kind of training over the same area. So it's kind of a give or take here. We do have that flood watch that's in effect for everybody in Kentucky here all the way through Saturday evening. I am going to take a look at some of the river flooding here. I won't do that on the live, but if I see anything interesting on the river flooding, we'll be sure to post that here to the social media. Here's the severe risk again from the SPC. You can see again that level 2 out of 5 slight risk includes Corden, Indiana, Jasper, Indiana, Hartford, Kentucky, and Owensboro. Again, I think that the highest severe risk today is going to be in far western Kentucky. If you live Madisonville, Evansville to Paducah, kind of from I-69 portions west, looks to be the highest severe risk. And our biggest risk today is going to be damaging winds. If you're in this level 2, looks like it's going to be about 8 to 11 p.m. for storms. And then if you're in this level 1, about 11 a.m. to 6 a.m., that's that kind of overnight setup that we have been talking about in this video. So scrolling down here, here's your probabilities for everything. We've covered this a couple times, but again, our biggest risk for today is going to be the damaging wind threat with up to 60, maybe 65 mile an hour winds, a low end tornado risk. Again, if I had to put any money on, or if I had to put anything on it here, I would say the highest tornado risk would be from Evansville to Vincennes, Indiana. I think right here along the I-64 corridor. You can even go as far west into Mount Vernon, Illinois. But I do think along that I-64 corridor is probably the highest tornado risk in the early / mid-afternoon. I will not be chasing the tornado risk today. I will be storm chasing today in Kentucky, but I will not be going to Illinois. So I think as of right now, I'm going to head towards Evansville, Kentucky. And we're going to kind of cover the damaging wind threat that could kind of take place here in far western Kentucky. So make sure my Twitter is Kentucky_WX. So make sure you follow my Twitter, as I have live storm chasing updates on there very frequently. And I am working on, almost done on getting my YouTube set up. So we'll be continuously live streaming on YouTube during severe weather events. So very excited for that, ready to keep grinding and building for you guys. And again, I wanted to show the timing for the highest severe weather threat one more time before we got off this video. And again, you'll see if you're west of I-65, it looks to be around 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. If you're east of I-65 or along it, looks to be about 1 to 3 a.m. And again, I think the flash flooding risk is the biggest concern, especially because this wave tonight's not the only wave that we're going to see, right? Like, we're going to see another wave on Friday and potentially another wave on Saturday. So if we see already 2 to 3 inches of rain from this first wave today, and you get under another wave on Saturday, it's inevitable that we're going to see some flash flooding, just from the amount of rain that we've already seen and the amount of rain what's to come. So just wanted to keep you guys weather aware as we get here into our weekend. As we move into Saturday and Sunday, the flooding risk does look to shift a little bit further south. Again, this is for Saturday, and the National Weather Service kind of highlighting just south of the Western Kentucky Bluegrass Parkways, from Bowling Green to Campbellsville to Tompkinsville to Hartford for our most excessive rainfall outlook as we get into our Saturday. So repeated rounds of showers and storms continued through Saturday. I really want to get us through today first. I want to get us through the severe risk, flooding risk today. We'll cover tomorrow when we get to tomorrow because, again, whatever happens today will greatly determine on what happens for the rest of the event or the rest of the weekend. So last thing I wanted to show here is StormNet. StormNet is, give me 1 second here. There we go. StormNet is a forecasting tool, one of the best forecasting tools we look at when forecasting for severe weather. So when we look at StormNet, your timestamp is going to be right here in the middle of the screen. And we're going to look at the wind risk first because, again, I think the wind risk is our primary risk today with severe storms. So again, looking at the top, this is Thursday, July 9th. And when we fast forward here, you can see as we get into the early afternoon, an area of strong winds, damaging winds looks to take place here along the Illinois-Indiana border in far southern Illinois and Indiana. And this around 1 to 2 p.m. And kind of as we advance this here, you'll see where StormNet is kind of highlighting for the biggest, and that's even a more farther west trend. It's been trending west all day, but so this is at 6 o'clock today. And anywhere you see the green is a more highlighted risk for damaging winds. And again, at 6 o'clock, you can see that's kind of here in the Boot Hill of Missouri, just west of Paducah. And if we fast forward this here, about 10 to 11, you can see we don't have much of that green. It's more of a light blue, which would be more of an isolated damaging wind threat. So this has downtrended significantly, especially here in central Kentucky, for the overnight or evening hours tonight, and that is really good news. But if we are going to see some damaging wind gusts, I do think that far western Kentucky, again, a corridor here from Paducah to Evansville to Hopkinsville, right here in far western Kentucky, I think is most likely to see that damaging wind threat. Now, as we get into the overnight hours, I do think we're going to see widespread showers and storms here along the I-65 corridor. But again, it's 1 a.m. So the severe risk is not going to be very high as we move into the overnight. I did want to show the tornado risk real quick. Not a high tornado risk at all today. And if we move this forward here, I'm going to have to zoom in very hard for you to even be able to see it. I'm actually going to have to zoom out. So if I zoom out here, you can see it's very hard to see, and that's how low end of a tornado risk that we have today. But if you look here from Springfield here, just south of Jefferson City in Missouri, about 6 to 7 o'clock, there will be a very low end tornado risk. And again, as we move into Kentucky, there's just not much. There's just not much of a tornado risk today. It is interesting, though. I don't want to leave this out. StormNet has uptrended a little bit on tomorrow. And it is really highlighting more of the I-65 corridor yet again, the St. Louis area as we get into Friday evening. But I do think there will be a damaging wind threat, especially with wherever that second line of storm sets up tomorrow. So this is looking again here tomorrow at 6 p.m. And you can see StormNet is showing another area of showers and storms here in far western Kentucky. And we'll just kind of, again, a lot of this, where this sets up on Friday is going to depend on what happens today. So I do think we'll have another low-end severe risk on Friday, but we have to get through today first. I think getting through the severe risk today first is key to whatever happens on Friday. So that is all I got for you guys. Please be sure to put any questions or comments, concerns that you have in the chat. We'll stick around here for a couple of minutes to answer any questions that you guys have on any of the severe risk or flooding risk as we get into later tonight into tomorrow. I don't think that this is a very high-end risk. I don't think this is an enhanced risk setup, but I do think that it's a setup where we're likely going to see a couple of warnings here, especially in western Kentucky. Again, I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds to put any questions in here. But it would not surprise me. This is just based off of what I've seen. Would not surprise me to see the SPC kind of issue the slight risk maybe a little bit farther like this, a little bit farther south and east. And they could even, if they wanted to, they could even do that. So, remember, it's kind of two waves as we get into the evening. The first wave will be up here near I-64. The second wave is going to be diving here into western Kentucky. And that's why I think that the damaging wind risk from Paducah, Madisonville, Hopkinsville to Evansville is a little bit more elevated than, let's say, even here in E-Town. just based on some of the model data that I've been seeing. But I do think that everybody's going to see storms tonight. And we'll just have to track radar and kind of nowcast to see where the flash flooding risk is going to set up. But I definitely think that we will have a flash flooding risk as we get into tonight. April, how we doing? I really appreciate you coming in. I hope you're having a great day today. Thank you so much for joining. Again, going to leave this open for a couple of questions here, but I think I've covered basically everything for today. Again, we're going to get into the setup on Friday once we get through tonight. So kind of I'll be live again tomorrow around the same time, and we'll cover again on what to expect as we get into our Friday. Because if models are wrong with the evolution on Thursday, there is absolutely no reason for me to show you something on Friday, because the evolution on Thursday will determine what happens on Friday. So let's get through this. Let's get through the storm here on Thursday night. Not anything crazy, but I do think we'll have some isolated damaging wind gusts and a real elevated flash flooding risk, especially in far western Kentucky, as we advance through today and this evening. So again, I really appreciate everybody coming in here. I appreciate all the support. I will be live chasing and streaming my storm chasing today. Again, I'm going to highlight somewhere around Evansville to Madisonville. I'm going to stay in Kentucky for this event. I want to make sure that we have some coverage of any of the storms that are going to be happening in the evening. But if you're along the I-65 corridor, I do think that this looks to be more of a after the sun sets into the overnight hour setup. And the highest severe risk does look to be in far western Kentucky for later today. So that is all I got for you guys. I really appreciate everybody joining in here. Remember, I will be live on all of my social media accounts on Kentucky_WX on Twitter. And I might even sneak a YouTube live in there as well to kind of get everything set up. I believe my YouTube is also Kentucky_WX. So if you guys want to follow me on there, I will have live storm chasing updates as we get into the evening tonight. Just make sure you stay weather aware. The flash flooding risk is the #1 risk for me, though. I do have the slight risk of severe weather on here, but I do think that we're going to see an area of flash flooding tonight, and I hope everybody just stays weather aware, especially if you're in far western Kentucky. So we'll do this again tomorrow with Friday set up and kind of see how today verified tomorrow afternoon. So I really appreciate everybody coming in here, and I hope everybody has a safe and great day. Stay weather aware. Thank you, guys.